नमस्ते बिटिया, हमेशा खुश रहो बिटिया. Myself Dr. Aarti, Associate Professor, Jyoti Vidyapeeth Women's University. Today we are going to start with the diabetes mellitus part 2. The pathogenesis and complication. It is not known that in both type 1 and type 2 diabetes mellitus, severity and chronicity of hyperglycemia form the main pathogenic mechanism for microvascular complication, that is retinopathy, nephropathy and neuropathy. Therefore, control of blood glucose level constitute the mainstay of treatment for minimizing development of these complications. Long-standing cases of type 2 diabetes mellitus, however, in addition, frequently develop macrovascular complications like atherosclerosis, coronary artery disease, peripheral vascular disease, and cerebrovascular disease, which are more difficult to explain on the basis of hyperglycemic alone. The following biochemical mechanisms have been proposed to explain the development of complication of diabetes mellitus. The non-enzymatic protein glycosylation. The free amino group of various body protein binds by non-enzymatic mechanism to glucose. This process is called glycosylation and is directly proportionate to the severity of hyperglycemia. The polyol pathway mechanism. In this mechanism, it is responsible for producing lesions in the aorta, lens of the eye, kidney, and peripheral nerve. These tissues have an enzyme, aldose reductase, that react with glucose to form sorbitol and fructose in cases of hyperglycemic patients. These polyols result in disturbed processing of normal intermediary metabolites, leading to complications of diabetes. Third is the excessive oxygen-free radicals. In hyperglycemia, there is increased production of reactive oxygen-free radical from mitochondrial oxidative phosphorylation, which may damage various target cells in diabetes. The complications of diabetes. As a consequence of hyperglycemia of diabetes, every tissue and organ of the body undergoes biochemical and structural alteration which account for the major complications in diabetes, which may be acute, metabolic and chronic systemic. Both type of diabetes mellitus may develop complications which are broadly divided into two major groups. One is acute metabolic complication, which include diabetic ketoacidosis, hyperosmolar hyperglycemic non-ketotic coma, and hypoglycemia. Diabetic ketoacidosis is almost exclusively a complication of type 1. Clinically, the condition is characterized by anorexia, nausea, vomiting, deep and fast breathing, mental confusion, and coma. Most patients of ketoacidosis recover. Hyperosmolar hyperglycemic non-ketotic coma. Hyperosmolar hyperglycemic non-ketotic coma is usually a complication of type 2 diabetes. Blood sugar is extremely high and plasma osmolality is high. Thrombotic and bleeding complications are frequent due to high viscosity of blood. The mortality rate in hyperosmolar non-ketotic coma is high. Hypoglycemic episode may develop in patients of type 1 diabetes. It may result from excessive administration of insulin, missing a meal, and due to stress. Late systemic complications include a number of systemic complications may develop after a period of 15 to 20 years in either type of diabetes. First is the atherosclerosis. The diabetes mellitus of both type 1 and type 2 accelerate the development of atherosclerosis. Consequently, the atherosclerotic lesions appear earlier than in the general population, are more extensive, and are more often associated with complicated plaques such as the ulceration, calcification, and thrombosis. The possible ill effect of accelerated atherosclerosis and diabetes are early onset of coronary artery disease, silent myocardial infarction, cerebral stroke, and gangrene of the toes and feet. The gangrene of the lower extremities is 100 times more common in diabetes than non-diabetics. Diabetic microangiopathy. This microangiopathy of the diabetes is characterized by basement membrane thickening of small blood vessels and capillaries of different organ and tissues such as the skin, skeletal muscle, eye, and kidney. Diabetic nephropathy, renal involvement is a common complication and a leading cause of death in diabetes. Four types of lesions are described in nephropathy. First is a diabetic glomerulosclerosis, which include diffuse and nodular lesion of glomerulosclerosis. Vascular lesion that include hyaline atherosclerosis or afferent and efferent arterioles, atheroma of the renal arteries. Then diabetic pyelonephritis and necrotizing renal papillitis, tubular lesion and Armani's-Epstein lesions. Now, diabetic neuropathy may affect all the part of nervous system, but symmetrical peripheral neuropathy is most characteristic. The basic pathological changes are segmental demyelination. Diabetic retinopathy is a leading cause of blindness. There are two types of lesion involving retinal vessel, background and proliferative. Then the infections, diabetics have enhanced chance of susceptibility to various infections such as tuberculosis, pneumonia, pyelonephritis, otitis, carbuncle, diabetic ulcer. This could be due to various factors such as impaired leukocyte function, reduced cellular immunity, poor blood supply due to vascular involvement, and hyperglycemia per se. Diagnosis of diabetes mellitus. Hyperglycemia remains the fundamental basis for the diagnosis of diabetes mellitus. In symptomatic cases, the diagnosis is not a problem and can be confirmed by finding glycosuria and a random plasma glucose concentration level above 200 mg per deciliter. The severity of the clinical symptom of polyuria pallidipsia is directly related to the degree of hyperglycemia. In asymptomatic cases, when there is persistently elevated fasting plasma glucose level, diagnosis again poses no difficulty. The problem arises in asymptomatic patients who have normal fasting glucose level in the plasma but are suspected to have diabetes on other grounds and are thus subjected to oral glucose tolerance tests. The American Diabetic Association has recommended definitive diagnostic criteria for early diagnosis of diabetes mellitus as under: if fasting level for more than 8 hours value below 100 normal fasting, 100 to 125 is the reading, then impaired fasting glucose level, 126 above 126 that is diabetes mellitus. 2 hours after the 75 gram oral glucose load, if it is less than 140 it is normal, 140 to 199 it is impaired, and above 200 it is considered as DM. Random value more than 200 or more is in a symptomatic patient is considered as diabetes mellitus. The following investigations are helpful. First is the urine testing, which denote the glycosuria. If renal glycosuria is there after diabetes, the next most common cause of glycosuria is the reduced renal threshold for glucose. In such cases, although the blood sugar level is below 180, but glucose still appear regularly and consistently in the urine due to lowered renal threshold. Second is the ketonuria. If ketone bodies are present in the urine, then assessment of diabetes is required. Single blood sugar estimation is there. A grossly elevated single determination of plasma glucose may be sufficient to make the diagnosis of diabetes if it is more than 7 millimole or 126 milli above the 126 milligram per deciliter. Screening by fasting glucose test in diabetes 2, it is oral glucose tolerance test, which is performed principally for patients with borderline fasting glucose value. A fasting blood glucose sample is first drawn, then 75 gram of glucose dissolved in 300 ml of water, and it is blood and urine specimen are collected half hourly interval of at least 2 hours. Then, if blood and plasma glucose content is measured and urine is tested for the glycosuria. If it is the value should be 100 milligram per deciliter. If it is in the range of 100 to 125, it is considered as a impaired glucose fasting glucose tolerance test. And if it is more than 200 milligram per deciliters, then it is labeled as a diabetics. Other tests include the glycosylated hemoglobin, that means HbA1c. Measurement of blood glucose level in diabetics suffer from variation due to dietary intake of previous day. Long-term objective assessment of degree of glycemic control is better monitored by HbA1c. This is on non-enzymatic glycosylation of hemoglobin take place over 90 to 120 days. Lifespan of RBC. HbA1c therefore give an estimate of diabetic control and compliance for the preceding 3-4 months. Second is the glycated albumin. which is used to monitor the degree of hyperglycemia during previous 2 weeks when HbA1c cannot be used. Then extended GTT. Oral GTT is extended to 3 to 4 hours for the appearance of hyperglycemia. Intravenous GTT, this is performed when intestinal malabsorption syndrome is there. Cortisol primatide GTT is helpful in investigating cases of potential diabetics, and insulin assay is measured by radioimmunoassay and ELISA technique. Proinsulin assay is included in immunoassay of insulin. C-peptide assay is more sensitive than insulin assay. Islet autoantibodies, these are the glutamic acid decarboxylase and islet cell cytoplasmic antibodies may be used as a marker for type 1. Screening for diabetes associated complication like microalbuminuria, dyslipidemia and thyroid dysfunction. This is my reference. I hope you enjoyed this session. If you have any query, mention it in comment box. Thank you.